Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to listen up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
Phil and Ryan, listen up. Hey, Ryan, I just got off the phone with someone very, very special, and that's Damon Brooks Jr. Shout out to Damon. We hope that he's doing well, all of us from Frederick down the road to where he is. So, hello, Damon, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in on this Sunday, Ryan. Usually not on. You like your Sundays off, but I'm like, well, I had to wake you up pretty early. I'm like, hey, it's time to get out of bed and record, Ryan. So, here we are recording, and this episode, let's get right on down into it. This episode will definitely raise some eyebrows. We have been looking forward to this episode for a long time. I know there's still at least two people that believe in this player and believe that she has what it takes up there in Storrs, Connecticut, and that's you and I, Phil and Ryan, listen up, right? So today, the spotlight on Amari DeBerry. And again, we hope that we see full comments and a lot of likes on this video because, hey, she deserves all the credit, even though, Ryan, there's been a lot of eyebrows raised. So, with that said, I will turn it on over to you on this Sunday, July the 9th, All-Star Week, and you tell me, why has there been so much debate between this great player? You and I still think that she has what it takes. So much hot debate. Some people say yes, some people say no when you speak on behalf of Amari DeBerry.
Perhaps the most interesting player on this UConn Huskies roster. And I think there's been a lot of things that have happened behind the scenes. I think that's happened with every single team and every single player, but more specifically with Amari DeBerry, it just seems like there's a lot more stuff that happens that we don't know about. And the one of those things was the injury that this past season, her back injury, a herniated disc on her back that caused pain in her leg. It wasn't announced during the season, but I think she dealt with a couple injuries last year. Not only injuries, but she did mention she was dealing with a little bit of anxiety and some things on the mental health side that was pretty clear to see. I think at some points during the season, you could just tell on the court and sometimes even on the sidelines that Amari just wasn't quite there, both physically and mentally at times. But luckily, CT Insider provided another good article for us, and Amari did mention that she was focusing on those two things, both her mental health and physical health, and hopefully she can focus on those two things, get them straightened out, and be ready for this upcoming season. But like I said, a couple injuries that we weren't sure, that we didn't know that she was dealing with. But Amari did play in 26 games last year for UConn, only saw double-digit minutes in 10 of those games. And like I said, Amari does acknowledge the fact that she does need to step up and play better, and hopes to do so after healing and getting back and focusing on the brand new season. DeBerry stated, quote, "The main thing for me is consistency. The coaches don't ask you to do something you can't do. They ask you to do things you came here to do and what should be done every day in practice," end quote. And I think all of us are rooting for Amari. I think certainly hopes that she can figure some things out, which seems like a lot to ask for, especially on the injury side, hoping that she stays injury free this season. There's been a couple players that have struggled with back injuries on this team. We know that back injuries certainly isn't something to take lightly, and it's affected, like I said, a couple players on this team. And, it seems like it's a pretty year-long injury. So hopefully the surgery that she has, and hopefully she can rehabilitate during the off season and get back to as close as 100% possible. Also on the mental side. But like I said, I think everybody's rooting for her, and we all know it. Amari knows it as well. She knows that she's talented enough to play, and I believe even start on this team. But it's just whether or not that she can put it all together before the season starts and keep it all together as well.
Yeah, very well said. And I think a good sign is, and again, we're talking about the UConn Huskies, no surprise. I think when you go down the list, and I think it should be this way, in my opinion, obviously at every college school, women's basketball program, at every college program, meaning you go down the roster and every player might not be a legend, right? And leave it all out on the floor as far as a Hall of Fame basketball player, but they show flashes here and there and they have potential. You can see that as long as you work with them more in practice, this and that, right? So again, when you speak on behalf of the Huskies, they definitely, I think that's a good sign. Every single, we haven't seen actually some of the freshmen, the new freshmen coming in, but I believe as far as what we've seen out of high school highlights, I believe even though they might not raise up to expectations in their first year, second year, they still show flashes, that they have what it takes. And I bring that up, Ryan, because Amari DeBerry is one of them that, hey, she had a career night. Remember that when she showed glimpses of potential in UConn's win at Seton Hall. She was appeared on ESPN Sports Center's top 10. Ryan,
Yeah.
she was named the most interesting Husky in the world. And some people are like, well, that's not that important, Phil. Well, yeah, it is, Ryan, because again, we talk about the personalities on and off of the court. When you examine these players and when we go through this series and break down, we've been told Ryan and I talk too much. Well, it is the off season, so if you have a topic, bring it to us because, hey, there's only so much, Ryan, that we can focus on during the off season. And like you told me, Phil, it's just tough to dig out the news on what to talk about. I understand, Ryan, but at the end of the day, hear me out for what it is. Amari DeBerry, with me going through all these things with you, these bullet points, and we could break them down even more, but we only have a certain amount of time. What is it that you see? I mean, even if she's not showing her full potential, I mean, do you give her more starts than what people are expecting? I mean, even if she's not living up to expectations, what is it that you think? Because she's already been, again, the most interesting Husky in the world. She has a great personality. The players actually love to be around her. She's a big cheerleader on the sideline. Something is off. Maybe we'll see it here in the comments. We can't wait to see the comments on this episode. But Ryan, again, with her being, we might as well say a close to a veteran now. Do you really just give her that time, even if it's not well deserved?
Well, I certainly think there's a lot of things that we obviously can't predict going into the season, and there's a lot of things that we don't know, that we can't expect, we can't predict it. There's a lot of stuff that happens during the season. But I think Amari certainly, when you talk about her attributes actually on the court, 6'5", so she definitely has the height to be a force inside the paint. And with a lot of these players that we've talked about, they always show signs and flashes during the season that, they sometimes prove that they deserve to have more minutes and they earn their spot out there on the court. Amari, obviously, like you said, had that one good game against Seton Hall, scored 13 points and had a Sports Center top 10 play. But yeah, I mean, Amari on and off the court is definitely a really interesting character and player. Definitely a great personality. But like I said, I think we're all rooting for her. But definitely some things she definitely needs to figure out. But I think obviously the attributes are all there, and she's tall enough to rebound, to block shots. But I think she just needs a little more drive and push to be able to put it all together out on the court. And maybe learn the system a little bit more, learn to play with that starting lineup, because I certainly think she can obviously start in this lineup. They need somebody to take the place of Dorka Juhas, and I think Amari can be one of those players, but it's whether or not she can actually play in the starting lineup and have an impact out there.
All right, we'll lead the rest of the discussion for our subs, Ryan, as we get on down in the comments. Jason D'Amico, excuse me, the game was a little fast for Ayanna. last year, and I don't think she expected the level of talent that she was going against. Hopefully, she worked on her footwork and technique in the paint. Looking forward to seeing her progression. Peace, fellas.
Footwork and technique are probably the two biggest things for Ayanna Patterson. Jason makes a good point there, and I think that's probably the the biggest thing for a lot of freshmen is just the going from one level to another, high school to the college level, especially when you're playing for UConn. A lot of big things are expected. We say it a lot when you're a high recruit. A lot of expectations going into the season, but we don't really expect these players to get a whole lot of minutes because there's a lot of great players on this UConn Huskies team. But Ayanna, I think she definitely has what it takes, but footwork, technique inside the paint, getting very unlucky at times. Obviously, Jason makes a good point with the pace of the game. I think at times, I think Ayanna was just a little bit too slow. So I think a lot of those things come with the experience and hopefully with the season under her belt and practicing throughout the whole off season, going through these workouts. Hopefully, we'll see a new regenerated and hopefully an improved Ayanna Patterson this season.
Yeah, how about Captain goes, Ayanna's confidence was shattered last year when her high school success did not translate at the college level. After her shots got blocked several times, she appeared hesitant when she had the ball in her hand. Ayanna's heart is there, but she needs to find her game. By the way, I believe Gino said Ayanna will not be making the trip to Europe with the team due to knee procedure performed in the offseason. Ryan, very quickly, do you know, maybe maybe they'll come through and comment on this. I know I'm guilty. I should have looked this up deeper. What is this whole thing as far as Europe? Do these games count toward their record, or these games? If these games do not count, to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm not too sure if I would even be sending Paige Beckers over there if they don't count. I don't know if you have any updates on this or not.
I don't believe I don't think they count. I thought they were sometime in August or September, but maybe they are at the very start of the season. We keep
I
saying
mean,
it, and we
it's
need to
straight.
have
It's
it.
yeah, and it's simple. It's straight up. It's either hopefully somebody will tell us it's either these games are real or they're preseason. So it's either one. I don't see where it's anything in between.
Yeah, I have the dates here. It's from August 15th to the 25th. Huskies tour 4 cities in 3 countries. So,
Okay.
since the games are in August, I would assume that they don't count
No.
towards the regular season. But yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting as well. And as that gets closer, of course, we only have a month, I guess, until that actually happens. But that's another interesting topic. I did see where Ayanna wasn't making that trip, and there's probably going to be a couple other players that don't make that trip as well, because there's a couple other players that have experienced injuries and that needed surgery,
Ryan, do
rehabilitation.
you blame them and the coaching staff for making them decisions after the injuries that we have suffered the past 3 or 4 years since you and I have been on here?
Yeah, no, I don't blame them at all. I think it's definitely a smart decision to hold them out, especially because it just is a preseason games. But it should be a pretty fun, unique experience for these players, all of them, but especially for the younger players. And hopefully during that trip, we get to see some of the freshmen, sophomores play, all of these players that we've already went over. Ayanna obviously won't make it, but hopefully Ines and all of the freshmen, Yana, hopefully all of those women will be able to play in that Europe trip. So that there definitely should be a lot of interesting things that we can learn from that European trip.
All right, Ryan, I will leave it right there. And here's to all of our MLB All Stars. Good luck this week. And our good friend Damon Brooks Jr. Obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, Ryan, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, or work around it. Here's to our good friend, sports reporting intern for the Washington Post, Damon Brooks Jr. Thank you so much for always being there for us. And thank you for all the motivation that you provide Ryan and I. It's Phil and Rye right here on Listen Up.